On this episode of War Junk, the team breaks new ground and for the first time enters Germany. We're investigating the Rhineland Campaign that raged for 6 weeks in winter 1945. This was the first Allied push into Nazi Germany that culminated with the crossing of the Rhine River, the final barrier to the heart of Hitler's empire. The team takes to the sky to do an aerial reconnaissance 7 decades after the battle.
This whole area would have been honeycombed with artillery positions.
On the ground, we explore key areas, including the deadly Reichswald Forest.
What have you got?
I think grenades.
Grenades?
What happens when we attempt to cross the Rhine River?
This ain't gonna be good.
And can the team solve the mysteries behind 2 artifacts from Allied soldiers who fought here in 1945? This is War Junk, Into the Rhineland.
I'm Professor David O'Keefe.
And I'm history buff and filmmaker Wayne Abbott.
Together, we travel the globe searching for war junk.
Remnants, artifacts, anything left over on the battlefield.
Some big, some small.
All with a story to tell.
And a mystery or two to solve along the way.
We're about to embark on maybe the biggest investigation that we've ever undertaken. For the first time, Dave and I are going to go into Germany.
We're going to investigate the Rhineland Campaign, which is a massive battle that was fought here in 1945.
This is one of the largest battlefields we've ever explored. In order to do this, we're going to begin with an air investigation. We want to see what is left 70 years later.
Here we go.
We took off from a field just on the Dutch side of the Dutch-German border. From here, you can get a great glimpse of what it was like both on the Allied and the German side.
The way to see a battlefield, Dave.
Can't get any better.
The Rhineland Campaign was fought in February and March of 1945 in this section of northwest Germany. But the fighting actually began on the Dutch side of the border on February 8th. The initial operation was codenamed Veritable. It not only marked the beginning of the push into Germany, but Operation Veritable opened with one of the largest artillery barrages in military history.
This whole area would have been honeycombed with artillery positions.
We kick off our air recon near the start line for Veritable, just outside the Dutch town of Malden, where the Allied gun pits were positioned for the attack. In Operation Veritable, over 1,000 Allied guns opened up almost simultaneously.
So were these British or Canadian?
These were a bit of both, all trained on German positions in the Rhineland.
Just imagine the sound at that moment.
Wouldn't want to be in the air like we are now.
Then we head into previously uncharted territory.
Look ahead of you, Wayne. Germany.
As we cross the border, we're over what was the heart of the Rhineland Campaign, the infamous Reichswald Forest.
That would be an ominous forest to enter into during battle.
The opening artillery barrage of Operation Veritable targeted the positions below us. Unlike today, it was cold, wet, and muddy when the Canadian and British soldiers stormed into the Reichswald Forest.
It's much bigger than I thought, Dave.
It really is. You're talking about 8 kilometers by about 6 kilometers. And just think that the British and the Canadian soldiers down here had a fight for every inch of this.
How brutal was the fighting in this forest?
It was absolutely nasty. You had no clue what was around the corner from each tree.
Now, we head southeast to the final Allied objective in the Rhineland Campaign, which was reached in late March 1945.
Straight ahead, Wayne. The last barrier for the Allies, their defeat of Nazi Germany. The Rhine River. This is what the Rhineland Campaign was all about.
Finally, we made it to the Rhine River. And when you see it from the air, you realize what an imposing barrier this was.
Well, it's a daunting obstacle to get over.
Oh yeah, this wasn't just jumping a little river. This was a major amphibious operation once they got here. They started crossing on the 24th of March, 1945. Where we're over right now is one of the most historic locations in the Second World War.
I think we head back to the landing zone and start our investigation.
Let's take it to the ground.
was incredible seeing the entire battlefield from the air.
Oh, it's amazing. You can see the scope of just how big this operation was.
So where are we going to begin?
Well, we're heading to a place called Malden, where the Canadian artillery was dug in. This forest near the town of Malden was the first place we flew over in the chopper. Our mission for today is simple: dig to find war junk from the opening moments of the Rhineland Campaign.
And we get help from some familiar faces who guided our earlier dig on the Operation Market Garden battlefields.
Morning, Wayne.
How you doing, Roy?
Morning, Dave.
Roy Gertz and Rural Deckers are two very experienced battlefield diggers.
We're in this area where the 5th Artillery Regiment was settled during Operation Vertebral. It's a huge area. It's here in the woods, and they're all places where they had their fire units and batteries.
So we're looking for evidence of Canadian artillery positions just over here.
Yes.
Not just that, but evidence of one of the greatest barrages in history.
Well, let's get geared up.
Let's do it. What Wayne and I are hoping to find are any signs that will take us back to the opening day of Operation Veritable, the beginning of the Rhineland Campaign. We're hoping that we'll be able to find signs of artillery shells or maybe emplacements that may still be in the ground. As we walk through the forest, it's hard to imagine now that over 1,000 Allied guns were positioned around here, firing at the German lines. And we're heading to an area where the guns of the 5th Canadian Field Regiment were stationed. Where do we start?
We're going to search in this area, and I think we will start that way.
Do you want to start in the center and then we work our way up?
Yes.
This may be a daunting task all these years later, to find evidence of Canadian gun positions in what is now an overgrown forest.
Dave, I got something.
Where?
But Roy gets a quick hit.
I've got something metal. It's about 2 meters by 2 meters, I think.
The hit that Roy got at this site was very strong, and our anticipation grew as we dug into the soil. What we're really hoping to find is intact ammo boxes, something that truly represents the Canadian gunners who were stationed here during Operation Veritable. Unfortunately, we weren't that lucky. What's that mean?
Well, we're getting small chunks of material, but it doesn't look like there's anything intact.
My signals tell me there's something very large in it.
We keep digging, deeper and deeper. It appears to be a promising target. Sounds like you hit something.
We had something.
Then suddenly the weather changed.
We lost the blue sky that we had in the chopper. We have thunderstorms all around us right now.
We quicken our pace.
And we were still hoping as we dug deeper into that hole that we were going to find something special. But with the rain falling, we were 5 feet down in this ground. We were finding nothing. We got broken bottles and pieces of an ammo box.
It looks like we have more of a dumping pit than a position.
That's disappointing.
Despite the weather, we continued on, and Roy very soon came up with another location just a few meters away.
When we started digging the second hole, it didn't take long to find something.
Oh,
Got some?
yeah.
Here we go. At first, this item doesn't look like much, but it is a significant find. We found the insert from a 25-pounder ammunition box, and as the field regiments only use these kind of guns, we knew we were in the right place.
It's a holding plate.
It's the holding plate inside the box, right?
Yes, there are 2 of them in the box to have the shell in it. 4 shells in the box for firing.
You found something else?
Hang on.
Careful.
Then we find the other end.
So these 2 fit together.
Yeah,
Right on top.
is on top of that,
And the shells are
and
in.
the shells are between it. And they're in an ammo box.
This is what it would have looked like in 1945. 4 high-explosive shells were placed in an insert and then packed into an ammo box. Thousands of shells like these were fired on German positions during the opening moments of Operation Veritable. As we continued to dig, we finally struck something solid.
Oh, you can see it now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Smaller. And as Roy wiped the sand away, what did we see? The perfect corner of an ammo box. Exactly what we were hoping to find.
25-pounder.
Yeah.
It's in good condition.
But this small ammo box could be dangerous.
This could be empty or it could actually have shells in it?
Could have shells in it, yeah, when they left them behind.
1, 2, 3.
Easy.
Indeed, we uncover an intact ammo box for high explosive shells.
The box was in almost perfect condition.
But what we don't know are the shells still in it. So opening it we need to be extremely careful. We let Roy pry open the latches. There was only two things that could be in this box. The original high explosive shells, which would have been very dangerous for the team.
So after 70 years, here we go. Whoa.
Or sand.
That's sand?
That's sand.
Surprisingly, sand is not that unusual to find in a used ammo box. One of the ways for the artillery positions to protect themselves was to use their discarded cases like sandbags.
They would line their gun pits with these boxes full of sand to protect themselves.
The last person who would have touched this would have been a Canadian soldier putting the sand in here for his protection.
The sand hasn't seen the light since 1945. Look at that. Now we can fit the holding plate into the box. This is how it was brought to the gun positions with the 4 high explosive shells in it.
That's what it would have been.
And you think about the millions of shells that were fired into the Rhineland as the Allies pushed in.
As we continue to dig, we get another hit.
Whoa.
There we go.
Got something, didn't you?
Yep.
Oh, we love that sound.
As we moved the sand away, you could see that the surface was curved.
It's hollow. Looks like there's a hole in it.
A cylinder?
Yeah.
It wasn't long until you could see the recognizable shape.
Whoa,
Oh, it's a helmet.
There's the edge. Looks like a Mark I, it looks like it.
Yeah.
That's great.
We gotta get this out.
This is an extraordinary find. And then Rule carefully pulls it out.
We have never dug anything like this up. And you can see the chin straps. 70 years plus. Canadian artillery soldier right here, probably during Operation Veritable.
Would have to be.
Sadly, there was no name or number, but this is still an incredible artifact.
Normally we find some German helmets in Groesbeek, but this is the first time I dug up something in Mulder. Some soldier has wearing this 70 years ago, and now we are the first persons who dig this up.
After an unlucky start, we have dug up incredible artifacts.
So with this, and with the helmet we found,
We have an amazing representation of the Rhineland battle in 1945. After our successful dig, we get a lead on a nearby museum north of Malden.
what do you know about this museum that we're heading to?
Well, the research team tells us that this is a small collection put together by a very passionate collector who's used to dealing with all the battlefields in this area.
So hopefully he has something from the Rhineland.
Hopefully. We're now hunting for personal items from soldiers who fought during the Rhineland battles. When we arrived, there was nothing really other than the little sign outside that denoted that this was a museum of any type.
Hello.
You must be Marcel.
Yes, that's correct.
Hi,
Hello,
David
nice
O'Keefe.
to meet you.
Wayne Abbott.
Hello, Wayne. Nice to meet you.
So is this where you actually have your museum?
Yes, behind the house we have the museum. Please follow me.
So we follow Marcel through his house and then into a small courtyard.
Here we have the museum garden with a lot of artifacts who found in this area.
Marcel's museum garden is not your traditional garden. It's filled with war relics picked up in the area. Then he takes us into a small shed. I love going to museums like Marcel's. These small, intimate little museums are very intriguing. This is where we find some of our best artifacts.
Wow. It's small, but pound for pound, it's really packed with everything from the fighting around here.
It's an incredible collection, but we're really after one artifact from the Rhineland Campaign.
From February and March of 1945, anything that may be personal in nature.
Yeah, we have a lot of personal items in this museum. We have here a beautiful helmet. That's a total model.
Seen its better days.
My first impression was, dear goodness, the man who was wearing this helmet must be dead.
Must be.
Because here's the shrapnel in, here's the shrapnel out.
Now this is intriguing because immediately you see the damage on the two sides of the helmet.
When I turn it around, you see here a big piece of metal that must be behind in his head.
Definitely, it would lead you to believe that the person wearing this didn't survive the day.
It is going straight to the helmet.
Yeah, not
But
to mention this jagged
The
piece
man
right
had
here.
really an angel on his shoulder because he survived
How do you know that?
from the Canadian war archives. And I have also the name of the soldier who was wearing this helmet, called John Burton Ray.
Marcel figured this out by researching the service number painted on the helmet, F77419. He also discovered that John Burton Way was a sapper with the Royal Canadian Engineers. Whether or not he fought in the Rhineland is still a mystery. Were you able to find any members of his family? Do you know anything else about him?
No, nothing.
Well, this is definitely something our research team will want to look into.
After having Burton Way's helmet for years, there's one thing Marcel has been searching for.
I should be very, very happy when I can place a photograph from this man who was wearing that time the helmet. Then it makes a story complete.
Well, this one intrigues me the most. I mean, how did he survive?
Well, that is a good question. I mean, we know the units fought there. Certainly the 2nd Canadian Division and the engineers would have been in support. But the question is whether John Burton Way actually fought in the Rhineland Campaign and what happened to him based on this damage.
To help solve this mystery, there's one piece of evidence we need to see. The regimental war diary from Burton Way's unit, the 6th Canadian Field Engineers. Luckily, our research team quickly found it, and at our home base, we scour the pages.
Just keep an eye out for his name. The war diary recorded the daily key events of his unit.
They're in the Reichswald, middle of March.
Yeah, all I can see here is they're putting down a lot of Bailey bridges. So we know for sure John Burton Way fought in the Rhineland, but we're still looking for more specific information related to him.
The unit crossed the Rhine on March 27th.
Here we go. April 10th, 1945. One of the half-tracks received a direct hit while coming away from the bridge in the evening. All the superstructure was blown off completely. One of the sappers, by the name of Antonsen, was wounded by shrapnel, while sapper J.B. Way, F77419, who was riding with him, escaped unharmed.
So his half-track gets hit, and he doesn't get wounded?
According to the war diary, he walks away without a scratch.
Luckiest man alive.
After this surprising development in the John Burton Way story, we're now heading to what was once enemy territory. Today, we're heading into Germany. We're going to investigate the most important part of the Rhineland Campaign, where some of the most vicious fighting happened, the Reichswald Forest.
As the massive artillery barrage of Operation Veritable rained down on German positions, Allied troops crossed the start line and quickly pushed into Germany, directly into a Nazi stronghold, the Reichswald Forest. Wayne and I are meeting a young man by the name of Joey Lehman, who does a lot of exploration of the Reichswald Forest. You must be Joey? Hi, Dave.
Hi.
This is Wayne.
Hey, Joey, how are you? So you know the Reichswald?
Yeah, I come here a lot.
What we want to do is really explore the forest and try to see if we can find evidence of what happened here in 1945.
Yeah, most of the stuff is gone, but you can see a lot of foxholes and dugouts.
Should we be worried? Is there any unexploded ordnance still lying around?
Yeah, there's a lot of ammo laying down here.
Now, the biggest problem we have is that we can't dig in the Reichswald Forest. It's illegal to use any metal detector and dig below the surface within the forest. So our investigation will be strictly visual. We're looking for anything on the surface that'll take us back to 1945.
So the area that we're walking in right now, this is the same axis of advance that the Canadians took in 45.
Yeah, exactly the same.
So of all the battlefields you could have covered, what is it about this one that's so special?
It's one of the biggest operations on the Western Front. A lot of stuff happened here and a lot of people got killed.
Is this a way to pay tribute to the people who fought?
Yes, I visit cemeteries, museums, and this is part of it.
It's quickly apparent that Joey has a great passion for military history, and he has plenty of experience with the Reichswald Forest.
This is a unique battlefield because this is where the Germans were entrenched for months, if not years. And then after Operation Veritable, the Canadians took over these positions.
The difficulty, of course, is trying to find anything on the surface from the battle in 1945.
Now, this is a beautiful forest, almost fairy tale in nature.
And it was hard to reconcile the fact that this was one of the big battle zones in all of Europe in 1945. Doesn't look like anybody's been on this route in a long time.
There's almost nobody coming here.
The farther we went into the woods, the more it thickened up, and we weren't really sure what we were going to find. Where exactly are we going now?
About 50 meters that way, and then we arrive at the Canadian headquarters.
Now this is unexpected good news. As we approach an open area in the woods, what we see takes us right back to the fighting here in 1945.
There's the foxhole.
Oh, wow.
Near battery, I think.
No, that's a foxhole.
And that's the dugout.
Oh, we're in a position. Look at the size of this.
These would have been bunkers dug first by the Germans and then taken over by the Canadians as the battle moved through the forest.
So this would have been probably the sector commander's bunker.
Yeah.
Right here.
As we press on, we find more war relics from 1945, both German and Allied scattered over the forest floor. A piece of glove, German batteries, bits of porcelain dishes, and even the remnant of an Allied rocket projectile.
That's the tail section. You can see the fins.
So there's no explosive in it?
No.
Okay, so it's good to touch with you.
Yeah.
There's so much left on the forest floor. We didn't have to go too far to find something deadly.
Something up here, guys.
What have you got?
I think grenades.
Grenades?
Down here, next to that tree. They're Mills grenades, and the pin is still in it.
Then how dangerous if the pin is still in?
Well, the explosives are still in there. I wouldn't want to touch it.
Crazy that they're just lying right here on the surface. After 70 years, the war is still here in this forest.
Then Joey takes us to a nearby foxhole. Joey all of a sudden takes off his knapsack and says, I have something to show you.
It's a mess tin.
Yeah, mess tin set.
Wow. Made in Canada.
Yeah.
And you found this here?
Yeah, about 1 year ago.
Is there any markings on this at all?
There's an engravement on it. It's very faint, but it's visible down here.
I see some sort of scratching.
Yeah, that's a B, yeah.
Oh, yeah, look at that. What do you think the name is?
Birmingham.
Birmingham. Okay, so it'd be B. Is that an I?
I think this is an E.
You think the name is Birmingham?
Yeah.
But you think it's spelled with an E? If that's the case, then we don't have somebody who's from Birmingham. Maybe we have an actual name of a particular soldier.
Because it was so faintly etched, Dave and I could not determine whether or not Joey was correct, that it was Birmingham with an I or Birmingham with an E.
We have an artifact that came right from the floor of the Reichswald Forest. I mean, this takes us literally back to the winter of 1945.
Yeah, I was laying here 70 years.
You've been holding this back on us the whole time?
Yeah, I did. Special surprise.
Even though we didn't dig, our investigation in the Reichswald was better than we could have ever imagined. We found so much evidence of the battle, and to top it off, Joey shows us this incredible artifact. We had to get back to our home base, and we needed to investigate that mess tin. The etching was so faint, I knew the only way that we could determine what that name was to use some technology. So I put it into a computer program so Dave and I could actually see the name clearer. I was able to outline the letters that we could clearly see. And we knew then that Joey was right.
It's Birmingham with an E. That should cut our odds down quite a bit. There can't be that many with a spelling like that.
After we send this new information on the Birmingham mess tin off to the research team, Dave and I head to the most significant location in the entire Rhineland campaign.
I can't believe we're getting this opportunity.
Oh, it's amazing. There's only a few of these left in the world.
And historically, are we in the same area where this happened?
Yeah, this is going to be the exact spot where the Allies crossed in 1945. Says we got to go through here. Let me check the gate.
Where we're heading is the site of the culmination of the Rhineland battle. Once the Allies cleared the Reichswald Forest, they moved deeper into Germany through heavily defended cities like Cleve and Gok. Then near the end of March 1945, they had one last obstacle to tackle. Let's go. Crossing the Rhine River. And this is what we hope to do today.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, look at it.
In this.
The duck. Hello, you must be Jorrit?
Yes, I'm Jorrit.
Hi, David.
Nice to meet you.
Wayne Abbott.
Hi, Wayne. This is my oldest son, Willem.
Hi, pleasure to meet you.
Hi.
Well, this is spectacular.
It's the duck.
A duck, spelled D-U-K-W. A World War II Allied amphibious vehicle that brought scores of men and supplies across the Rhine.
So do you know when this one was made?
Yes, it's 44 and the 44.
So if it was in action in Europe, there is a possibility it would have been here in 45.
Absolutely. A lot of ducks were used also here when crossing the Rhine.
So what's the plan today for us then?
Well, the plan today is that we will go into the water and see what it does, because the current is very fast today. So we'll see what is possible.
Would it be safe to say that the conditions with the river today are similar to what they were in 1945?
I think they are worse today than they were then.
Well, this is something we didn't expect. With the Rhine flowing so fast due to recent heavy rains, this will not be a simple river crossing.
Can you believe that the conditions are worse today than they were back then?
Yeah, at least nobody's trying to kill us. Only a few thousand of these ducks were built during the war. And although the name of Jorit's duck isn't period, named after the character in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, this is definitely a rare World War II vehicle. It can negotiate almost any type of water obstacle, including the Rhine River. And the beauty of this was it could deliver supplies and troops right up to the battlefront without making a stop when it reached the other bank. Now it was going to deliver something a little bit different. Wayne and I. Permission to come aboard?
Yes, absolutely.
On a duck.
On a duck.
Like the Allied soldiers did in March 45, we climb aboard the duck in order to bounce the Rhine, as they would say.
Ready for launch?
Ready. Into the Rhine, into the Rhine. With the dicey conditions, we had no choice but to launch from the east side of the Rhine, so the opposite direction to how the Allies crossed on March 24th, 1945. The plan is to sail the duck upriver a few hundred meters, fighting the strong current, and precisely at the right moment, slingshot across the river on a 45-degree angle to reach the other side. But it's not as easy as it sounds.
Well, you can see how slow we're going. Take a look at that pole right there. Look at the current coming off of it. And then measure that in comparison to the land behind. We're pushing almost 10 kilometers an hour, but we're really only gaining about 2.
And we weren't taking enemy fire like the guys did in 45. Still, there are other dangers lurking on the Rhine today.
Not only could this small vessel get swamped, but we had to worry about large barges and cruise ships that are constantly passing us on the Rhine. This is one of the busiest waterways in the world.
We are now going to cross. So I'm going to turn it now.
Here we go, we're turning.
Jort has to turn into the current, so we whip across to the other side of the Rhine.
As soon as we got into the strong current, the change was incredible. We flew. Instead of moving at 1 or 2 kilometers, we were moving at about 20. In the middle of the water, that's extremely fast.
We caught the current, we're moving down with it.
I can't believe how fast we're going.
1 meter, less than a meter. About to touch down the other side of the Rhine.
Okay, we're there.
Yeah! It was amazing when the wheels touched ground and we just rode them up onto the beach. The first thing I had to do was jump off with Jort. We bounced the Rhine.
Absolutely.
Great.
And this is the site where the Canadians left early in the morning to go into Germany.
So now we're gonna take the actual historical route back.
We will go up current and then make the crossing to land actually on the spot where we want to land.
And that's what they did.
That's exactly what they did.
This maneuver was even more dangerous than the first because we had a very short distance to go between where we were on that small beach on the Allied side of the Rhine to end up at the ramp on the German side of the Rhine.
On the 24th of March, 1945, there was actually German artillery plunging down all around them. We're going to cross now.
It seemed like it was lightning speed. We were there in a heartbeat. And then at one particular point, we weren't sure whether we were going to catch that stream to get in.
Uh-oh. This ain't gonna be good. We may miss it.
But sure enough, with skill and precision, he was able to get across, find the landing zone, get back up to where we left, all in one smooth move.
It's one thing to cross the Rhine, but to do it in the exact spot where the Canadians did in 45 and land right on target.
Exactly.
Excellent piloting. Excellent.
After a successful crossing of the Rhine, we get great news.
Hey, we have a hit on the Birmingham mist tin.
What is it?
The research team looks like they have eliminated everybody except one. Frederick Birmingham, who was a major with an anti-tank unit.
But the question is, was Frederick in the Reichswald?
I don't know, but they're sending us the war diary, and that can hold a key.
When we get back to our home base, the war diary for the 2nd Canadian Anti-Tank Regiment is waiting for us. We hope it sheds light on Frederick Birmingham's whereabouts during the Rhineland Campaign.
There could be information in here that'll determine whether he's in the Reichswald or not.
But there's no shortcut. We have to go through the war diary page by page.
They're in Kalkar, they're up in the Rhine, they're near the river.
Then we find the info we're looking for.
Hang on. March 11th, regiment moved into concentration area in the Reichswald Forest.
That's what it says for sure.
Right here, in Reichswald Forest, Sunday, March 11th, 45.
March 11th.
Here, read these out to me, the coordinates.
799527.
Using these map coordinates, Dave determines Major Birmingham's location.
You know what's amazing? Look how the forest is almost identical to what it was 71 years ago. The clearing is still there.
And that's the position where Joey said he found the mess tin. It's the exact spot.
We got our man.
This is great news, but we still have to wait to see what happens with the Birmingham story. But in the meantime, the research team has found the family of John Burton Way, whose damaged helmet we discovered in Marcel's museum. We're in the town of Bergendal, and we're waiting for John Burton Way's family to arrive.
They've come all the way from Canada and they have no idea what to expect, but we feel this is the perfect place for them to begin their journey. Well, hello.
Hello, thank you.
3 members of John Burton Way's family have come from Nova Scotia, Canada. Daughters Christine and Carol, and grandson Way Mason, named after his grandfather.
It's the reason why we wanted to start in this place.
Yeah, this is the place where your father's Battle of the Rhineland began. Now, of course, this area is absolutely beautiful today, but it wasn't that way in 1945. Everything you see around here would have been rubble, and most of the area was flooded.
We also don't know how much you know about your father's wartime experience, so maybe you can give us a bit of an insight on what he's told you.
Absolutely nothing.
Really?
He didn't talk about it.
Like many of the families we talked to, they knew very little about what their father went through during the war.
He always said I was an engineer. We didn't do anything. We always came in after the battle was over.
Oh, really? That's what he told you?
That's what he said.
Mind you, he was in a truck that was blown up.
What do you know about that incident?
There were 3 guys in a half-track, and it exploded, and they all jumped or crawled out. The driver was wounded, and my dad was wounded.
So your dad was wounded?
He was.
With the shrapnel damage on the helmet, we were certain he must have been wounded, but the war diary said he wasn't.
So did this wound affect him for the rest of his life?
It did.
He had tinnitus his whole life after that.
So a constant ringing in the ear.
The fact that he was wounded behind the ear seemed to jive with the idea of the helmet being torn up the way it was. But this opened up another mystery. The war diary tells one story, and apparently they know another. As the mystery of the helmet deepens, we head back into Germany. We want to take them to a place we know John Burton Way was for sure in March 1945, the banks of the Rhine River.
We just really wanted to bring you to this spot because there are certain days that we know where your father was during the war. Dave has some information from the actual war diary.
On the 24th of March, 1945, the Allies made an amazing assault across the Rhine River. And on the 27th, 3 days after that assault, your father actually made the crossing right here.
Wow. Wow.
Right where we're standing, right across for the final assault on Nazi Germany.
What's it feel like to be here knowing that your father on March 27th, 1945 was right here?
Well, it feels wonderful. It really is moving to be here where he was.
I just wish we could tell him we're doing this. I think he'd be thrilled.
We appreciate what he did, what they all did.
After showing them the Rhine River, which was one of the greatest symbolic obstacles in all of World War II, it was now time to take them to Marcel's museum.
Nice to see you again.
Hello.
We'd like to introduce you to the family, the daughters and the grandson of John Burton Way.
Hello, nice to meet you, Marcel. Nice to meet you,
Carol.
Marcel. Hello.
My name's Way.
Marcel, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
First, Marcel shows them his museum garden.
Garden with special flowers.
And then we take them into the little room that houses his collection.
They don't hurt you?
Look at them all.
So you can see in the cabinet here, he has a lot of the personal items
We decided because the museum was rather tight, we would step outside into the garden. That's where Wayne and Marcel were going to surprise the family.
So we have something that Marcel has had for many years. This is your father's helmet. So this was your father's. We feel that he lost it after he was wounded. The first thing that stood out was the shrapnel holes.
Oh, yes.
When Marcel showed it to us, the first thing we thought was that the soldier who was wearing this would have been killed.
Yes.
Then we read the regimental war diary.
April 10th, 1945, so just after they crossed the Rhine, where we took you to, they were putting up a bridge when suddenly one of number 3's half-tracks received a direct hit while coming away from the bridge. Sapper Antonsen was wounded by shrapnel, while F77419 Sapper Way JB escaped unharmed.
And that's what confused us. We didn't think your father could walk away from this without being wounded, but the war diary said he did. Do you have any information on why this possibility?
Matter of fact, I do. My mother told us this story. My dad was in the half-track, went back to camp. He's in the lineup for a meal, and the guy behind him says, "Bert, you have shrapnel in your head."
Really?
So Bert reaches up, pulls it out, and doesn't go to the doctor because it was more important to him to stay with the guys that he'd been with than to have his head treated.
And that's the reason that the war diary has him listed as unharmed, because he never reported it.
Yes.
Now this makes sense. John Burton Way didn't tell anyone about his wounding. He hid it from everyone.
It really says a lot about the kind of man that John Burton Way was, to be able to discover that he was wounded and then basically go back to duty without even reporting it. So what is it like after all these years to have that in your hands?
It's really marvelous, really wonderful to see this.
One thing is for sure, he had an angel on his shoulder.
Yes, sure
exactly.
did. Yeah, thank heavens for us.
Then there was one more surprise, but this time it was from the family to Marcel.
Now, I know for the longest time you thought my grandfather hadn't survived.
Yeah.
He actually lived until 1998, but we were also told that you might like a picture of what he looked like at that time. And that's a picture of him. He would have been about 20 years old in that shot.
This is very, very, very nice. Now we have the story, the helmet, and a face by the helmet from the man who was wearing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As John Burton Way is finally united once again with his helmet, we have one more mystery to solve. The mess tin belonging to Major Frederick Birmingham that Joey found in the Reichswald Forest.
Our research team has contacted the two daughters of Major Birmingham. They have traveled all the way from Alberta, Canada to the Dutch-German border to meet us. We're going to meet them at the Groesbeek Canadian Military Cemetery. We thought that this would set the stage for what hopefully will be a memorable journey.
The sisters are twins, Joy and Joan, born in 1939 at the beginning of the war.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Wayne.
I'm Joy.
Hi.
Hello,
David.
I'm Joy.
Joy.
Nice to meet you, David.
Well, I'm so glad you came over.
We've just been entranced, and the mystery of all this is quite amazing.
This is the Groesbeek Canadian Cemetery. What you see in front of you now are the graves of over 2,300, mostly Canadian soldiers who were killed in the fighting around here. Some of them likely would have fought in the units that your father supported during the war.
It's a very beautiful place.
Most of the children of soldiers who we interview are born after the war. It was unique to have Joy and Joan there, who were born in 1939 and remember vividly the day that their father returned from the battlefields of Europe.
We were 6 months old when he left for overseas. We were 6 years old when he came home. When he came off the troop train, we each grabbed a leg and yelled, "Daddy, Daddy." It was kind of surreal because in the flesh, it's different than seeing a picture. And you know then that it is for real.
Major Birmingham was on leave and expected to go back to the front lines. But luckily for him, the war ended. His time in the Reichswald marked his final chapter of World War II.
We still have a couple more stops to make on what hopefully will be a very special day.
I'm sure it will. Oh, this will be an adventure.
Yes, it will be.
Now it's time to take them into the Reichswald Forest to meet Joey.
The plan was to meet Joey at the side of the road and then turn the journey over to him. Before Joey shows them the artifact, the idea was to take them through the Reichswald Forest in the areas where their father fought in 1945.
Hi.
Hi.
Joey.
I'm Joy.
Nice to meet you. Joey.
Nice to meet you, Joey. Difficult to believe this was once a war zone. It's quite surreal to be walking where our dad was.
The first thing that Joey did was to take him to the bunker that we had seen earlier.
This was a German position and later on used by the Canadians.
Oh, imagine.
After your father's unit moved through here and did some fighting up near the Rhine River, they were pulled back to rest right here. This was his command post.
That's just amazing. My goodness.
Then it was time for Joey to take them to the exact spot where he found the mess tin.
This is the place we wanted to take you. This is where a year ago, he was walking through the forest and a piece of it was sticking up and he pulled it out of the ground.
Such an honor to be able to give this to you.
Oh.
A mess tin.
How do you know it was Dad's?
There's a name carved in. It's very faint, but you can see a B here, an E.
Oh my.
It says Birmingham.
I wonder what this is. Oh my gosh.
I didn't see the engravement until I cleaned it up. And
yes.
Oh, this is special.
It is very special. Thank goodness. Absolutely.
What's it feel like to be where your father stood, to be holding a piece of his wartime experience that he left behind?
It's just mind-boggling to think, you know, as we grew all these years, and here we are, and this brings back Dad, so real to us.
One of the most amazing things about this mess tin was that we could narrow it down right to one day in the Battle of the Rhineland.
So here's the war diary of the 2nd Canadian Anti-Tank Regiment.
And on the 13th of March, you can see in the entry, they were located at this particular MAF reference. And that is exactly where we are standing, right in this area right now. So taking these and comparing them with the maps of the time, we're able to corroborate this piece of evidence, that it was here, March 13th, 1945.
Just unreal.
And just to think that that artifact represents the last moments of his war, just before he went home to see you.
Oh my goodness. I think he was excited to see us. Oh, I think so. Us little muffins.
This mess tin might be one of the most powerful artifacts we've ever discovered that could be traced back to such a precise moment in time. And now it, too, was going home.
He's here. And we're standing where Dad walked. It's hallowed ground. This whole forest is hallowed ground.
The Rhineland Campaign came to an end soon after Major Birmingham went home to see Joy and Joan. He's one of the fortunate ones. So too was John Burton Way. 2 brave soldiers out of thousands of Allied troops who risked their lives and fought in Nazi Germany during the final moments of World War II.